like to get a motion on the approval of the April 2nd, 2025 board minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is the approval of per diem expenses. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, reports, OPTFM emergency purchases report.
Mr. Chairman, question.
Go ahead.
Department of Health, I was going over these, others, and it seems, Department of Health has asked for emergency flu vaccine, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
We did the same thing last year.
Pardon?
I said, there's a letter in there that the Department of Health.
Grab them, any calls that come in.
Can we get everybody to mute their mics who's on the Teams meeting, please? Thank you.
It appears that the Department of Health asked for emergency for flu vaccines last year about the same day.
They did. This is off the CDC.
Well, they were not aware that they were gonna have an emergency this year, or why is it another emergency?
I know they use a CDC contract and it expires in March. But I don't know why they,
Why isn't this a sole source situation? I'm trying to figure out. It looks like they could own it.
Do you have any insight on the weather vaccines?
Vaccines are always gonna be an emergency because they are given a limited window of when they'll be available and a limited window of when
The same time every year, and
I'm sorry.
looks like same time every year. It's April 12th last year and April 15th this year.
Yeah, but they never know. It just depends on what's going on. They don't know when it's gonna be us. I mean, when they're gonna be.
There's only one spot to get this vaccine, is that correct? Or not? Is there only one local?
Now, that I don't know the answer.
Well, there's multiple vendors in those vaccines, but it's coming from the Department of Health. So the way I know that it has functioned over the years is just that because you have to get them through the CDC and they only have them. And you're competing with every other state at the same time, and you have to get them when they declare that. It's kind of one of those things that wouldn't fit in any of our purchase timelines.
Okay.
And now sole source might be another option. But that's, but there's multiple vendors and you see in there, so.
Okay.
Because I don't know that could be the advertising window for a sole source with the limited time.
Yeah.
It's almost like one of those things when the CDC says they're available, you gotta buy them in.
Right.
So then that's the emergency. Just didn't know the procedure, so. DFA doesn't have any say so for this, it doesn't really matter, I guess. It is what it is.
That's right, because they're charged with that, with getting the vaccines and getting them out, so it's really beyond our world.
All right.
and that could show different.
If both are screwed, we might deal with it, but not.
This, there could be different strains as well, that they have to, if a new strain comes out, and they have to have a vaccine applicable to that specific strain.
Like the flu strain, which
I guess the second question I got is the mail that we got on these emergency letters, they were from 24. Why are we getting 2024 letters?
So the emergencies, some of them would have been declared in 2024, but they may just be submitting the contract for the reports at this time, because the emergencies can last a year. So if they declared them in 2024, sometimes they're still gonna fall into 2025 during that 12-month period. So if they modify them or anything, y'all are gonna see them again, even though it's 2025 now.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right. I'm good, thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, David. OPTFM sole source purchases.
saw a charge for state for Trident Southeast twice. For the same thing and the same contract, why, this, see, let's see. At Mississippi State University, says Trident Southeast, a new 5-axis cooked and rotating table for $61,000.
Right here,
And then go down,
right here.
and you got them again. So is it, are they buying two or is it the same contract? Why is
That looks like a repeat.
It looks like the original one was the new contract. It looks like they modified it in
Yeah.
some way and the OPTFM had to reprocess it.
Yeah. One
Same price.
So they it could have been as simple as changing a date or a quantity,
Okay.
and they're gonna have to
So
process
they
it.
resubmit, basically resubmit the contract. Okay, makes sense. Thank
We'll move on to OPTFM staff approvals.
I had a question on a piano for $180,000. That's got, I know piano's pretty high, that's pretty damn high, isn't it? For piano,
For Ole Miss, I think that's the first one. That's number one.
Oh, this one, okay.
well, they charge more because it's Ole Miss. We sold it to state, we got it for half that.
It's competitive bid.
Yeah, I mean,
It is
that's,
Steinway, which they're much more.
but my kids didn't take piano.
I'm the,
But I bet it didn't cost.
it didn't cost much.
Oh,
I do know that the Steinway at First Jackson was expensive.
And they did bid it,
Yeah,
so.
They did,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's different, but it's the regular on.
it was about 13 or 15 feet long too, so whatever it is, it's pretty big.
Then I saw some, legal research for $350,000. Where was that?
Right in the middle, about fifth line down, somewhere like right sixth line down.
Yeah, right there.
Is this their code books?
That's gonna be Westlaw, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, that wouldn't be their code books, because all that comes from the Secretary of State. Doesn't
Who got Department of Child Protection?
I mean, is that periodicals or updates out
It's
there?
probably the system,
I think
the
it's
subscription.
Yeah,
to
the
what-
Westlaw, yeah,
So the
Westlaw.
legal research,
It's pricey.
the electronic version of the legal research subscription is, I think, what this is.
Is that cost improved? Is that competitive? Is that competitive? Yeah.
Yeah.
it's expensive.
It's exempt from ITS, so therefore it falls on the 31,713, so it'll come to OPTFM. But they generally increase the price, periodically. When you subscribe, you'll have a built-in percentage
And
increase.
it depends on the number of users, Mr. Chairman, so, well, I a lot of users, I'm putting in budget.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Well, just on that line, I mean, there'd be some sort of site license. I don't know what the site license would be for the state and the number of users either.
Well,
If that would even be practical.
not everybody.
But, yeah, but I mean, like Secretary of State or others that might, but I don't know, that might be interesting.
But City West Publishing doesn't do our code.
Lexus Nexus.
So,
They got a number jumped out. All right, thank you for that explanation.
All right. Move to, BOB staff approvals.
I had a question on Capitol building. It said it was upgrade to the cavity above the house door. I don't know what exactly goes on in the cavity Above the house, don't.
So this is what's going on in the house now. It rocked. The steel
Infrastructure.
that holds the glass, the brick is bowing.
Okay,
So we gotta get up in that dome. We've taken the stained glass down and that's like fake stuff up there right now. We're trying to get back up in there, deal with lots.
so you just replacing the infrastructure, so it doesn't take it out.
And we had, bond money to do that back in the day, so we started in the house chamber, moved to the central dome, and then to the standard
Okay.
based on the severity of what's going on.
So it's not like a meeting room, they're trying to make a meeting room or something.
No, so they try with a lot of meeting rooms, but it's like, an ant can get in there.
Okay,
No, this is strictly repair. of
prepared,
infrastructure
maybe,
that-
okay, thank you for that, appreciate that.
And there may be some HVAC work and lighting and electrical, there's everything to do up in the dome.
It's lasted 125 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, but.
I know, I know.
It's happening.
and I had another question, what's the, is there a policy as far as using in-state or out-of-state architectural firms to do the, there's not? Because, I saw where Jackson State has some stuff going on using a Georgia firm, and I would think there's plenty of firms inside the city, the state of Mississippi that can do that.
I think at one time it was discussed that maybe you use all Mississippi firms, but if a Mississippi firm tries to bid on something
Outside.
outside,
Maybe
we
it's a
can
hand swipe.
get the pushback from it.
Okay,
So
so
that's
there's not, basically, there's no policy saying you're required, you preface to a Mississippi firm. You can do that.
And I would just say from being at the university, I know when we were exploring organic chemistry labs, we had better results outside of the state because they had more expertise, the particular firm we were looking at.
Well, this was thing in Jackson State for a roof replacement. That's not rocket science. You know,
it is, I can't see that. It is on.
There's two right there at the bottom of that, this Jackson State, where that is.
and put it here, Maryland, there, you go, Jackson State, warranty place right there. Replacement of the city hall, roof replacement,
Well,
Barnell Barnes.
yeah, they are here too. I think they must have an office here too, but they do a lot of work for Jackson State, that firm does. I think it does say Georgia on there, but I believe they have a local office, but I can verify that if you want me to.
And it says planning through the warranty
Mhm.
days.
Yeah, it's free.
So this project's under warranty and they're.
Well, they're gonna, it's in design, but they'll cover all the way through the warranty phase, so. But I know Vernell does a lot of work with Jackson State.
I just one thought that there's architectural firms in the state of Mississippi that can help with roof replacement.
She was saying that they have a Jackson office.
I believe they do, but I will verify that because I know that they're there a lot, so.
All right, thank you, appreciate that.
Mhm.
All right,
Okay, we'll move on to OPSCR emergency contract. Okay. Moving on to OPSCR sole source contract. Here on that. OPSCR staff approvals. God, what kind of work is Grant and Poole doing for DFA?
They are advising on the ARPA piece for the Bureau of Buildings.
Okay.
We have to meet lots of federal guidelines. We haven't used that money,
And they have
and they
expertise.
have expertise in that particular area. Like we have more for stuff, we have, car rigs for these, and we have grant and pool for the building.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yes.
Anything?
Right. Because the bids are very picky.
Obviously.
And you may not know how tickets they are until about 8 years from now when it's hard.
Now, they've already started. 100% swear to the tickets.
You know, we accountants are pretty anal.
Speak for yourself. Any other points on this one? Questions? All right, we'll move on. Quarterly legislative reports. OPSCR recommends approval of the request. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve based on staff recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Uh,
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. PFA Office of Purchasing.
All right, good morning, everybody. Danny Lynch, OPCFM. First contract for consideration. Board is with MDOT with Orion Solutions in the amount of $525,000. MDOT solicited for sealed bids for multiple herbicides on an as-needed basis for all of their locations. The contract was awarded to all bidders who met the bid requirements and includes 8 6-month extensions. OPCFM recommends approval of this contract.
Third staff recommendation. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move for approval based on staff recommendation.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next up is with the University of Southern Mississippi with Huntington Ingalls in the amount of $1,604,797. USM solicited competitive sealed bids for an unmanned water vehicle with an integrated high-resolution side scan sonar system. This vehicle will be used to conduct acoustic surveys to map the placement of different types of buried targets deployed in USM's. That should be CubeNet, C-U-B-E, lowercase NET, test range. USM received 1 response from the solicitation and would like to award the Huntington Ingalls. OPTFM recommends approval of this contract.
You've heard staff recommendation. Can I get a motion to approve?
Move for approval based on staff recommendation with a question.
Second.
I have a motion, and second. You answer the
Yeah,
question.
the question, just, is that the only one of those that we'll have in the state that we know of? I mean, we may not know that, but, and then the next question would be, would they be willing to use that, to lease that out if there's other state, or whatever, donate their services, if there's another need by another state agency or something like that.
Yeah, I'll see if someone from USM's on the line that can answer that. Anyone with USM on the line?
It's not a big deal, I'm just,
Do we have somebody from Southern on the line?
I'm just unaware of one of those.
We can
But-
get you that answer.
But I'm just thinking if that's, and such a specialized piece of equipment, rather expensive, there may be other needs in different parts of the state.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
It could even be part of their education program to go actually do that.
Yeah.
The laboratories in there, yeah.
I've
That's
got
what it looks like.
I teach.
Okay.
Oh,
Go ahead, Dave.
map buried targets void by the CUBA test range. What in the world is going on? And what kind of buried targets and what's a CUBA test?
I don't know.
What are they doing over there?
Well, but if you think about I don't know what to see, but if you think about some of the Civil War stuff that's buried in the rivers and things, and that's where I'm saying up and down the Mississippi River and Yazoo and others, is you could use sonar and find those things.
It says to map the placement. It sounds like it's an active it sounds like to me it's something active going on.
Yeah, and a test.
It doesn't say historical, you know, I can understand they're trying to figure that out, like on Merrimack or whatever.
This is all from what we're Googling, it's on the Gulf Coast.
Yeah.
They have a campus in the laboratory there, and it says it's for maritime systems that are tested and evaluated. It provides an environment for demonstrating the capability of using a range of oceanographic and environmental conditions.
I know understand map forward, I mean, that's certainly, information, I'm just wondering what they're bearing out there.
Testing include Mississippi River, Mobile Bay, West Florida, as noted in the coastal QNet user and data guide.
Okay, so it's bigger, I mean,
It's training and testing uncrewed maritime systems. Range provides real world environment for practicing and assessing the performance of UMS. Evaluating the range allows for researchers to access the performance of different designs and technology. The data collected in the range is used for application in aquaculture, tourism, energy exploration, fishery, marine diversity, as well as education, research, and the blue economy.
it could be sonar things that they're bearing to track, I don't know.
So what's that got to do with targets in the test range, there in the test range?
Yeah, I think
a piece of the training, use that equipment and they're like pretending like they're finding certain types of targets and they're saying like, they're using, it's like a research tool, I guess, for, using the actual equipment, they gotta test it and train.
it says the test range is used for ocean sensing missions such as those conducted by custom US Navy.
Okay.
Sounds like a covert operation. How big is the test range?
It said it could be a Mississippi River,
Okay.
Gulf Coast, West Florida, Mobile Bay,
So, a big area.
a big area. Cause they're really, beefing up that program on those several range research. And a group from the legislature toured down there. When was that?
That was like about 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
The group did what, I'm sorry?
Toured went on a tour down on the coast and USM was involved.
And a lot of their best, or a lot of them were unmanned, and I think he even said they use them for military training, they put them out there and they go and try to find them. It's some, through the air, I mean, it's a lot, I'm not a scientist, so I don't want to repeat it, but it's very interesting.
Okay.
They're a lot more efficient than manned vessels, is what they were saying.
All right.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
All right, next up is with the Mississippi Department of Public Safety for Agilent Technologies in the amount of $707,426.58. Public Safety, I would like to purchase a triple quadrupole LCMS system from the statewide laboratory equipment contract. OBTFM recommends approval of this contract.
You heard staff recommendation. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move for approval based on staff recommendation.
Second.
Question,
Okay, we have a motion and a second and a question.
what is a triple quadrupole?
It is
Like that name up?
It's a type of spectrometer. I looked it up. It measures components of light and matter. It's a laboratory tool or research tool.
What's it do?
It,
I mean, what kind
measures-
of light are they measuring?
What's the application on?
It's
What's
fine.
the? Is the app?
I didn't,
Do we have DPS on the line?
Yes, Mary Dukes, Director of Mississippi Forensics Laboratories on the line.
What's the application of the equipment?
This instrument is for forensic toxicology analysis in our laboratory, and it will be housed here in the Pearl Laboratory. It's to replace some outdated equipment that we have, but for forensic tox casework.
What does it do?
It
What does
actually,
measure?
yeah, Yeah, it measures the amount of toxins that are in the sample. So specifically, people like DUI analysis or drug ODs, that sort of thing.
Thank you for that.
Do we have a motion and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for that information. Appreciate it.
And number 4, we're gonna skip number 4. I received a call from rehab. That was a data entry, an incorrect data entry. That contract is not that big. I think it's only 50,000. So they called me and said that they put it in incorrectly. So I don't know if the board needs to take any action to skip it.
No, we'll just remove it from the,
Okay.
It's 50 is below the threshold, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't that big. So we'll move to number 5. Mississippi State University with Lakeshore Parent LLC in the amount of $1.5 million. And Mississippi State requesting approval for the purchase of children's educational materials for multiple early childhood programs using OPTFM's state cooperative contract. OPTFM recommends approval of this contract.
You heard staff recommendation. Can I get a motion to approve?
Approve based on staff recommendation.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Next up is with the Mississippi Department of Transportation with Covington Sales and Service for a knuckle boom truck in the amount of $3,585,060. This request for a 6-month extension is the third of 9 possible 6-month extensions. The contract was originally approved by this board on November 1st, 2023, with the first and second extensions approved on 5/1/2024 and 11/6/2024, respectively. OPTFM recommends approval of this contract.
You heard staff recommendation. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move for approval based on staff recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Need one more.
Motion passes. All right.
I said.
Oh, you did? Okay, I didn't, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. All right, motion passes.
Thank you.
Next up is also with the Department of Transportation with Model 1 commercial vehicles for a 6-passenger ADA minivan in the amount of $7,422,100. This request for a 6-month extension is the 5th of 9 possible 6-month extensions. The contract was originally approved by this board on 12/7/2022, with the first, second, third, and fourth extensions approved on 5/3/2023, 11/1/2023, 5/1/2024, and 11/6/2024. WDFM recommends approval of this contract.
You heard staff recommendation. Can I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve based on staff recommendation.
Second.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, next up is also with MDOT with Covington Sales and Service for a debris collection truck in the amount of $560,000. MDOT solicited a competitive sealed bid for the purchase of up to 2 debris collection trucks and wishes to award the Covington Sales and Service at $280,000 per truck. The contract term is for 6 months with 9 possible 6-month extensions and will be utilized by MDOT as well as other state agencies and governing authorities. OPTFM recommends approval of this contract.
You heard staff recommendation. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve based on staff recommendation.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Next up is with the Mississippi Department of Public Safety with Land Use South for a one-time purchase of 66 2025 Ford Explorer Interceptors in the amount of $3,075,209. DPS issued 3 purchase orders for 66 Ford Interceptors from the state contract in intervals of 40, 11, 15, and 15. The vehicles are additions to their fleet and will be used by state troopers. OPTFM recommends approval of this contract.
You heard staff recommendation. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move for approval based on staff recommendation.
A second with a question.
Okay, go ahead, David.
One-time purchase, they gonna take, possession all at one time, or is this over a period of time?
What the way delivery is, I mean, they won't all come in at one time. It just
I
depends.
said, in before the election, 15.
I have a question. Are these replacing some older vehicles?
I think some of them are and some of them are new.
Are these the ones that they've got a graduating class?
Yes, they had a class. Yeah.
Education,
They got-
business. Southern Miss produces graduates who are ready to make an impact in the real world and ready for life.
Everybody on the line mute
Since
their,
1910, the University of Southern Mississippi has been dedicated to preparing students for success. We are a community-engaged Carnegie R1 University, earning distinction as one of the nation's leading research institutions. From pioneering work in polymer science and engineering, ocean.
So, Mr. Russell, that we did talk to DPS about this, and they've got a new class coming through.
66 people coming out.
I don't know that it's 66,
Yeah,
but
That's that count.
it was enough to.
Make that all work.
Okay.
It's not an emergency purchase.
Yeah, yeah.
We've made some progress.
I mean, a lot of times with this
Yeah, that-
law enforcement
Yeah.
situation, we just ask, can you give us an explanation of what's going on so we can have that, and that's what we did in this instance.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, next up is also with the Department of Public Safety, with Canyon Chevrolet Cadillac Nissan, for a one-time purchase in the amount of $311,844 for 6 Chevy Silverado PPV vehicles. DPS issued a purchase order for 6 contract. The agency was previously approved to purchase 8 of these, totaling $417,800. And with this new order of the 6, the threshold has been reached requiring board approval. These vehicles are addition to the DPS fleet and will be used by state troopers. OPPFM recommends approval of this contract.
First staff recommendation, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve based on staff recommendation.
Second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
And I do have, I'm being told that Amber Floyd with USM is on the line. So Amber, you can join us. I think there were some questions regarding your agenda item.
Amber, are you there?
Amber? You're on hold. Well, we'll keep trying, y'all.
do we have Amber on the line?
Did we mute the phones or did USM in their phone?
I don't know.
Y'all have been on.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, we'll move on to the Bureau of Buildings. Section 2.
The first 2 items are for professional contracts which will exceed $250,000. The first one is for the Mississippi University for Women, DSM 104220 for pre-planned Painter Hall renovation in Columbus, Mississippi, with a budget of $300,000. The professional selected was JBHM Architects. The scope is pre-planning through design development phase for the renovation of Painter Hall on the main campus. This 21,000 square foot building, constructed in 1922, has last been renovated in 1983. The scope will include envelope improvements and complete interior renovation with some reconfiguration of spaces. This effort will also require asbestos abatement, ADA access improvements, and renovation of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and life safety systems as per applicable code requirements. This building is a designated Mississippi landmark and will require coordination with NDAH. BOB recommends PPRB approval.
For staff recommendation, can I get a motion to approve?
I move for approval based on staff recommendation.
Second question.
Have a motion and a second, David.
I just want to make sure I understand how this works. You have a budget of $300,000 for planning
through design development.
and fees of $850,000. What,
Once we get the budget established and proceed through construction, which we will have to give them approval for that. At this point, we're just developing the design documents through design development phase, and that's what the 300,000 is for pre-planning.
so the
Just-
300 is part of the 850,000, 57,000, or is that?
Well, once we establish that number is put on there to kind of let y'all know that that's what we expect. Once we get the construction number or get an estimate, they'll have to ask for more funds to continue this project. And so we don't have enough for construction right now or for construction documents. We just
So-
have enough.
It's gonna cost 300 to get to the DDP phase.
It could cost less. That's just
But
the,
that's the budget.
that's the budget. That's right.
And then they're anticipating that the overall project's gonna, the fees are 857,000.
Possibly.
And then what other question scope will include envelope improvements?
Yes.
Can somebody explain what envelope
Well,
improvements are?
I think, go ahead, Liz. There.
Uh,
Yeah, it's the outer, it's with the historical buildings, which we all know, I mean, every building we have, a Capitol complex has the same thing, but there's water intrusion and things like that, so we have to address those.
That's just an encompassing term, that's not a specific.
It's the,
Is the outside of the building, and they just, they've always said.
That's-
envelope.
yeah, it's building on.
Kind of equivalent to sweep the kitchen.
Exactly.
pizza. Yeah,
It's very similar to doing your roof, except it's your vertical wall.
okay.
Like all these buildings are aging.
I appreciate that explanation, thank you.
Yeah, thank
Yeah, a lot of those brick walls, and they'll say you had to be repointed
yeah.
and sealed because
Yeah, I just didn't know what, I didn't know if it was in terms of specific things, it's just an overall,
It's the
we gotta
overall
rewrite something overall. Thank you.
Yes.
You have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
The next item was for the State Fire Academy, GS number 505037 for the pre-plan administration, renovation and expansion in Pearl, Mississippi, with a budget of 200,000. Is also to JDHM Architects, and the scope is pre-planning through design development phase for the renovation and expansion of the administration building and the Pearl campus of the State Fire Academy. This 16,000 square foot building, constructed in 1976, has seen only minor modifications since its original construction. The scope will include envelope improvements and complete interior renovation with some reconfiguration of spaces. This effort will require asbestos abatement, ADA access improvements, and renovation of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and life safety systems. This building is not currently designated as a Mississippi landmark, but may be considered potentially eligible and may require coordination with MDAH. DOB recommends PPRB approval.
First staff recommendation, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve based on staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Ken Adams, Real Property Management. The first category is new leases. We'll start with Mississippi Department of Corrections in Grenada, 2,680 square feet, $24,120 per year, $9 per square foot, plus utilities and janitorial. Parole and Probation Office for the Grenada County area. This is a 5-year lease with no renewals. The agency advertised and received 1 response. RPM recommends the approval of this lease.
First staff recommendation, can I get a motion to approve?
I move for approval based on staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Next category is succeeding leases. This is with Mississippi Division of Medicaid in Philadelphia, Mississippi for 8,000 square feet, a yearly cost of $115,200 or $14.40 per square foot plus utilities and janitorial. This will be the Medicaid office for this part of the state. This is a 5-year succeeding lease with no renewals. The agency has been at this location since September of 2015. RPM recommends the approval of this lease.
You've heard staff recommendation. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve based on staff recommendations with a question.
Second.
David?
Yeah, a question, I'm looking at the Department of Corrections, there one before that, $9 a square foot in Grenada, and you got 15, 14, 50. Philadelphia, is there a difference in how the Department of Corrections offices staffed or appointed versus a Medicaid? Is there something special about Medicaid offices that?
Are you comparing the prices from one to the other? Unless. Yeah, the location, in which you're doing it. I mean, I'm sure Medicaid office is gonna be more of a business office versus the Department of Corrections.
That seems like a pretty good disparity in the price between Grenada and Philadelphia.
Right.
As far as, it's not like Madison,
Right.
But I didn't know if Medicaid offices require more bells and whistles than a roll.
Not really. It has to do with location, and the $9 represents probably not one of your prime locations for corrections.
Okay, fine, thanks.
I have a question. Looks like the lease rate went up a little bit over 30%.
About 25%.
25?
For Division of Medicaid.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. It did. It went up 25%. The agency has been there since September of 15. So they kind of rode the wave on an existing lease amount. And now they're trying to kind of make up for it a little bit and recoup some of their money.
So they hadn't had a raise since 2015?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for that question.
Yes.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Next category is the amended leases. First one is Mississippi Board of Architecture. And that's in Ridgeland, Mississippi for 1,018 square feet, yearly cost of $26,796. And that is $22 per square foot, but that is an inclusive price. This location will serve as the main office for the Mississippi Board of Architecture. The office will be utilized by the Board of Architecture, Landscape Architecture Advisory Committee, and the Interior Design Advisory Committee, and staff to administer the licensing and regulations of the professionals of architecture, landscape architecture, and certified interior design. This amendment extends the lease for an additional 5 years with no renewals. This agency has been at this location since September 2010.
You've heard staff recommendation. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve based on staff recommendation.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
The next amended lease will be Mississippi Department of Rehab Services in Olive Branch, Mississippi, 4,376 square feet at a yearly cost of $75,092.16. That is $17.16 per square foot. And again, that is an inclusive cost. This office will serve as a regional office for MDRS. This is a 5-year amended lease, extending the lease for additional 5 years with no renewals. After the first year of the lease, the rate will increase by 4% per year. The agency is reducing the square footage by 700 square feet compared to the previous lease. The agency has been at this location since May of 2019, and RPM recommends the approval of this lease.
You've heard staff recommendation. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move for approval based on staff recommendation.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
The next category of lease is non-competitive leases. The first one is with the Mississippi Department of Mental Health, and that is in Gulfport. It is for the storage of medical records for $12,600 per year. It's $4.50 plus utilities, excuse me, and that is an inclusive figure per square foot. And it's 2,800 square foot inclusive total. Purpose of the lease, this storage facility will store patient records, 2,286 square boxes, I guess they are square. This facility meets all the requirements for medical storage, as written in the linked contract for Mississippi Department of Mental Health. We'll be working with MDAH on future storage and the destruction of the files as schedule allows. This is a 1-year non-competitive storage lease with no renewals. This AC has been at this location since June of 24.
Your staff recommendation, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved based on staff recommendation with question.
Second.
Second.
David?
Yeah, is there a policy on how long paper records need to be kept versus digital and all that? Does that be a transition?
The archives sets a standard for medical records, and what we're trying to do here is get beyond a certain period of time that these records have been in storage previously, in order for them to most likely be destroyed. That's what we're trying to do, is just meet that particular deadline.
So you're not gonna go back 30 years and digitize them for 30 years and keep up with them that way?
That's a little bit out of my bailiwick, but I don't see that happening.
Did they anticipate in the future to go strictly digital and without paper, or what?
I know, just I don't know if you guys online, but with State Hospital, we had records back to the 1850s.
Yeah,
And we began to digitize all those because the termites were taking care of them. And so I know we started with the oldest and came forward. I don't know how far they've gotten through the process, but it was a massive undertaking. And it's a good thing is today you can do a lot of that much easier, and less expensively. And then a patient record at State Hospital could have been filled in the entire lateral file cabinet. I mean, we had some that were just enormously long and piles of stuff, you know.
Well, I'm sure there's a benefit of keeping those records that, to figure out what treatment's been and what worked, hadn't worked.
Well, but digitizing actually begin to do sorting and using searching and making it a lot easier too. But yes, it was some of those records. They did keep some just for the kind of the historical factor of it.
And how far did it go back?
To the beginning of, which was the 1850s.
Is there any reason to keep anything over 100 years old?
At that time, there was no way to actually have it, but they began to archive, all that digitally just so they would have it and create safe space.
No records have to be kept.
Kelly Braylon just said something.
And there are other retention stages set by archives where it's not. We don't have to keep things that long, so.
Those guidelines set by archives.
Yes. And so we, all of us are trying to, get documents scanned. So they're more searchable and obviously don't take up as much space, but that's an expensive proposition. So we're starting old and new and kind of meeting in the middle, but it's expensive to do.
And time.
Why do you have to keep records that are 175 years old?
I don't know about the 175.
Well, no, at State Hospital, that was, because I was there in the late through 2000, but they had just been kept forever and ever and ever. And there's sometimes court cases, you go back and look, some things will pop up, but again, those, we really didn't even use those. We began to store them because they had never.
What do you digitize? Were they digitizing?
No, well,
Back
yes.
to 1850?
Yes, we started.
That's a waste of money.
Well, but some of it's history. And we will find, you would be surprised who has come to research things, but anyway. And some of those you can't share. Because
Yeah, but there's a cost benefit relationship
Yeah.
For this particular item, Kelly Breland said these records are from a discontinued local community mental health provider, and they are planned to be destroyed per statutory requirements when the expiration occurs.
Which is when? Oh,
please don't hold me to it, but I believe it's either 7 or 10 years after the patient has been last seen. And this local community mental health center discontinued operations. Don't hold me to this either, please, but probably 5 years ago. So we're about halfway through when we could do that. It was more complicated probably a year or two ago, because before, I believe the legislature or Archives and History changed the rules to where it used to be children or people under a certain age, it was much more complicated. They simplified those rules and basically said this, I believe, is 10 years, but I can find out and let staff know there to clarify. That 10-year period after the last time that patient's been seen, well, they haven't been seen since they discontinued operations at that provider. That's another reason it's a little bit more complicated. These are not technically, we just inherited these records. They're not technically records from the Department of Mental Health and our service that we provide, like at State Hospital. These were inherited because statutorily we had to pick them up and or take custody of them. But the plan is that once that time expires, whatever legally can be done at that point, these records is planned to be destroyed.
Okay.
Is there any guidance as to if a patient dies, would the record be destroyed at a certain point after death, or is that death notified, or is that just?
Not that I'm aware of. It would still just be by that whenever they were last seen.
Okay, all right.
Okay. You have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next non-competitive lease is with the Mississippi Department of Revenue, the storage locations in Florence, Mississippi for 520 square feet. That'll be $1,800 per year, $3.46 per square foot. That is inclusive. Purpose of the lease: this storage lease is for a covered RV storage. The RV will be used as a mobile command center and is currently housing about $40,000 worth of equipment. It will be kept at the new ABC warehouse once the ABC warehouse is finished. This is a month-to-month non-competitive lease, storage lease with no renewals. MDOR asked PPRB for a waiver on section 300.9, section 7 of the state leasing manual, restricting the lease of rental to 18 months. Mississippi Department of Revenue is asking for a 2-year space rental for this trailer. Should have the warehouse up and going by then. RPM recommends the approval of this lease.
You've heard staff recommendation. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move for approval based on staff recommendation with the.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Move on to section 7.
Good morning, Kimberly Burst with OPSDR. The Mississippi Department of Human Services is requesting to enter into a contract with Line Bridge Technologies in the amount of $180,000. The term of this contract is 1 year with 4 optional 1-year renewals. The contract will provide language interpretation and translation services to provide access to services offered by MDHS. The contractor was selected through an invitation for bid with 5 respondents and awarded to the lowest bidder. OPSDR recommends approval of this request.
You've heard staff recommendation. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move for approval based on staff recommendation.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Item number 3, I think item 2 was taken off, right?
Yes, DFA has requested that item 2 be moved off the agenda and they will bring it back at a later time. So with the board's approval, we will get item 2 in this section.
Okay, I'm good with it.
Angela Cooper with OPSCR. Item number 3, Mississippi State Hospital has submitted a new contract with Phoenix Technical Services Incorporated in the amount of $208,314 with a term of 4 years with one optional 1-year renewal. The contractor was selected through an invitation for bid with one bidder and was awarded to the sole responsive and responsible bidder. The contractor will provide medical equipment maintenance services for equipment located at the Mississippi State Hospital main campus. They shall complete repair services at their own place of business and if approved by Mississippi State Hospital at a designated Mississippi State Hospital location. OPSCR recommends approval of this request.
First staff recommendation, can I get a motion to approve?
Move for approval based on staff recommendation.
Second.
The motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Item number 4, this is a new contract between Mississippi State Hospital and Dr. Marsha Belaga Price with a term of 4 years with no optional renewal in the amount of $1,006,720. The contract worker was selected through a request for applications and was the sole respondent. Dr. Price will serve as a psychiatrist for the substance use disorder unit, providing inpatient psychiatric care to patients receiving treatment. It would be paid $200 per hour. OPSCR recommends approval of this request.
First staff recommendation, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the recommendation.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Item number 5, this is a new contract between Mississippi State Hospital and Dr. Nasma Talukdar with a term of 4 years with no option to renew in the amount of $1,487,200. The contract worker was selected through a applications and was the sole respondent. Dr. Talukdar will serve as a psychiatrist that will provide inpatient psychiatric care to children and adolescents under the care of the agency. He will be paid $250 per hour. OPSCR recommends approval of this request.
First staff recommendation, can I get a motion to approve?
I move for approval based on staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
Good morning.
Morning.
Don Gill with OPSCR. Item number 6 is new contracts between the Mississippi Department of Child Protection Services and the 13 contractors listed on the agenda. The contractors join the agency's continuum of care network to provide concrete care and child placement agency services. The COC is a network of agencies that work together to protect children and offer a wide range of family-centered services, including prevention, medical, and legal support, licensed foster homes, and residential treatment. The term of the contracts is 3 years with one optional 2-year renewal. The contractors were awarded a contract from a request for proposals with 16 respondents. Contractors were awarded to the highest scoring responsive and responsive. The agency requests an exception to PPRB OPSCR rules and regulations effective September 6, 2024, because it used the previous version of the rules for this solicitation. OPSCR has reviewed the request and has no concerns that granting the exception would affect the competition, fairness, or transparency of the procurement as the agency complied with the requirements in the previous version of the rules. OPSCR recommends approval of this request contingent upon the exception of the request being granted and receipt of the required certificate of insurance.
You heard staff recommendation. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move for approval based on staff recommendation.
Second question.
Go ahead, David.
Oh. Remind me of what that rule change was, September the 6th, 2024. What was?
So that's when we, kind of did an overhaul of the rules and just reorganized and reworked all of the rules. So we're still in a little bit of limbo because these things take so long to run. Y'all are, for probably a couple more months, y'all are gonna see some agencies that started this process before the new rules took effect. So they followed the old rules till now. And, you will slowly start to see, as agencies are starting procurements now, they'll be following the new rules, but we're still in a little bit of limbo with new rules versus old rules. And so they just need an exception because the rule numbers have changed. They've been reorganized.
I have a quick question as well. The pricing difference in here, is that based on the number of beds and the number of anticipated day of children or young people that are in those of the period of time? Okay.
So, some of these contracts, and I'll let CPS will please just kind of cut me off. Obviously, the per diem rates were set, and the bidders who responded to this contract, some of them will say, oh, well, I can only offer 10 beds, or I can offer 30 beds for this particular type of service.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Section B.
Good morning.
Morning.
Shannon Smith with Office of Statewide Strategic Sourcing. In April 2023, OPSCR established a list of approved vendors who can provide nursing services to agencies as needed. As set forth in section 4.4 of the IFB, OPSCR would allow for rolling awards by continuously accepting bids for potential PBL placement. The IFB stated we would recommend awards for all responsive and responsible bidders whose average bid price did not exceed 125% of the average hourly rate for each service category in each region. During this year's rolling awards, 9 bidders responded, 2 were deemed non-responsible, 1 withdrew before we completed evaluations, and the rest were deemed responsive and responsible. This list will be effective until June 30th, 2026. Prices will remain fixed and valid until June 30th, 2028. There is an allowance for a price increase in case of unexpected market disruptions. This price adjustment must be supported by market analysis. The adjustment cannot exceed 110% of the original bid rate. OPSCR recommends that the bidders listed here be placed on the PBL for nursing services.
For staff recommendation, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion approved based on staff recommendation.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
We have a petition from the Mississippi Development Authority. The agency wants to run an RFP for one contractor to act as a consultant, helping to attract European investments and grow existing businesses in Mississippi. The agency contends that an IFB is neither practicable nor advantageous because they need flexibility to evaluate experience, capabilities, and staffing. The offers will be evaluated on technical factors at 36%, management factors at 29%, and cost factors at 35%. The anticipated term, 3 years, 24 months, and any combination of renewals. The Office of Statewide Strategic Sourcing recommends approval of this request.
You've heard staff recommendation. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move for approval based on staff recommendation.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passed.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Kathleen Function, the Office of Statewide Strategic Sourcing. Mississippi Development Authority wishes to enter into an agreement with ACOM Technical Services, Inc. in the amount of $800,000. The term of the contract is 2 years with up to 36 months of optional renewals. The contractor will provide grant management and consulting services for the preventing outages and enhancing the resilience of the electric grid 40101D program. The objective of the program is to provide matching grant funds to eligible entities to implement activities that will improve the resilience of the electric grid against disruptive events. The contractor was selected through a request for proposals with 6 respondents. 2 proposals were rejected. One was deemed unresponsive for failing to meet the minimum requirements, and the other was rejected because the price submitted was deemed unreasonable. A request for reconsideration was filed by the respondent whose proposed price was deemed unreasonable. NDA reviewed and considered the request and filed its response, confirming its finding that it was in NDA's best interest to reject the price submitted as unreasonable because it was more than $198,000 per year, less than the next lowest offerer. OSSS recommends approval of this request.
For staff recommendation, can I get a motion to approve?
Move for approval based on staff recommendations with question.
Second.
Billy?
The question is, all right, so like what electrical grid, or is this statewide or is this like where we're bringing industry in and it's just sections of the state, or do we know?
I believe MDA is on. If they're not, I'll answer it, but I prefer to get an answer from them directly.
Okay.
Brian? It is statewide.
Okay.
Hey, Amber?
This is Amber with NBA. Says all the information I have, it is statewide.
Are you all working with like Entergy and Mississippi, Power on the coast and others as well?
I believe they are.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes. Okay, any, anybody, other business needs to be discussed? Hearing none, our next meeting will be June 4th, 2025, same time, same place.
A quick question. How are we doing in our trainings? I mean, have those been paused, or are we still having those, for, say, what purchasing? Okay.
Amy and her shop just had one, how long ago was y'all's training? A month?
End of March.
And I think they had over 70 people attend. And Danny is actually working to revamp his program, and he's gonna do an online platform so that more people can attend. When we have them in person, it's great, but you're limited with space. So we're trying to come up with a hybrid where we can train anybody who wants to be trained every time we have a training. So the trainings are in motion, and I think they've been successful to Amy and Danny's credit.
Good. Is it like a day, 2 days, 3 day training?
So Amy's training this past time was 2 days. Danny's historically has been, 3 days? Yeah. And then a testing period, because his comes with a certification. So that's what we've been doing, and we'll see once he gets his new training revamped, that may change a little bit, but they are multi-day.
Where are they held? Here?
So we just held one at the Ag Museum.
Okay,
We used to hold them in 145 before the Great Flood. So I don't know when we'll get back to that.
Not anytime soon. We've had several other major minor floods in this building since then. But Sun and Sand is coming online, and they will have it's a training room upstairs in that building.
And y'all carry them north and south too, right? Have y'all?
We have not.
Okay.
They're always here somewhere in the Jackson area. Now we do, when we have our yearly purchasing conference, we do provide training, and that sometimes is on the coast or in Tupelo.
Yeah.
We do that.
Thanks for that report.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.